Welcome to the Power Hour podcast. We're back at Patent Title. Our buddy Andrew's away at Orlando, but I'm Jeff Smith. Here we got Jeremy Montoya, and we have some really great people that we're really excited to be starting out with. Dude, how was your week?
It was fantastic.
Yeah,
It was a great week again. Yeah. How about you?
it was it was really good. We had Sam Singh in town this weekend, so we've been touring him around Houston. That's been fun. We got another deal under contract where another wholesaler had him locked up way the heck too high, and then he comes back to me. He's like, "Crap, dude! Like I'm in trouble. Like we got to close on our house in a couple weeks." So that's the second one we've had in the past like month and a half where these buyers have fallen through. So, guys, note to self: key is in the follow ups. These deals do come back around eventually. So, all right. So we want to get started. We got a few guests for you. Our first one is Carson. So it's his first day here at Power Hour. So we're going to surprise him by making him a guest to get started. Where is Carson? Yeah. So when you're a guest, you actually do come up here.
No, my name's Cameron. I was like,
Oh, Cameron.
no, that's fine. I was like, who's Carson?
Okay. Now the context makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, who the hell is this person? All right. Cameron, hey, thanks for coming out to Power Hour. So I guess start out how did you hear about Power Hour and what were your expectations?
God, how did I hear about Power Hour? I guess just being in the circle of like real estate investors and stuff like that in general. I came to a sub 2 meetup a few weeks ago and met Jamie and a few other people. And I don't know, just kind of stumbled into the Facebook group. Andrew, I think I was following him on Instagram and I just started to hear about it in circles. Finally got a free Saturday and thought, like, yeah, come out and be around like-minded people. So make some calls.
Awesome. So have you made calls to sellers or agents before, or was this your first one?
Yeah, I have. So I've been kind of in wholesaling for like the last 2 years, but just on the cash side. So I've been kind of looking for an opportunity to quit with the company I was with because I was doing it for another company in their operations and in their acquisitions. So I was looking for the opportunity to kind of leap away from cash and into creative because it's a little bit more fun, more opportunities. And I got that opportunity. So I quit like a week ago, and then it's my first week full time doing that by myself. And then now I'm here just kind of around other people in the creative space. So.
Nice. I was talking with the realtors over in the other room earlier, and I was telling them about a deal. I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, where it was a cash deal, and then we had to convert it to sub 2 because of the liens that popped up. So yeah, definitely glad you're in the community. Don't give up on cash, but keep using creative as a tool to solve unique problems. So you made some calls, and who else did you get to meet and hang out with while you're here?
George. George seems super giving and he's fun to talk to in the room with the pre-foreclosure.
If Aldridge at Patton knows everybody, then George is the second person who seems to know absolutely everyone. He's our best recruiter.
Yeah, and then Aldridge too. Aldridge somehow is everywhere you go all the time. Like every meetup I've ever been to, he's like the first person to come up and say, "Hey, I'm Aldridge," and I'm like, "Wait, we kind of know each other." He's everywhere. So yeah, George, Aldridge, Jeremy. I sat in on your kind of intro class and stuff. So yeah, just kind of getting started and meeting this whole community of people here at Power Hour. So a ton of new faces and kind people. So
well, good. I guess we fooled the next guy too. So awesome job. Yeah, and there's a lot of people who have actually partnered up as they've met people here at Power Hour because of the atmosphere. And we still have like a big back room of people just calling just because they love the energy and the atmosphere. So yeah, Cameron, thanks for coming, hanging out, and hope to see you again here soon. All right. Oh, sorry.
Oh, so thank you again for coming out. Before we go, do you have Instagram? People can follow you and stuff like that?
If you want to, it's just my name. So yeah, if you want to follow the journey, it's just my name, Cameron Hunter .re. Cameron.hunter.re. I don't plug my stuff a lot, so there we go. Appreciate you.
Out of practice on your Instagram handle. All right. Hey, thanks for coming up. All right. So who's next? So we've got Sam Singh, who's visiting us from California. One of my good friends. We've known each other for a little bit. Met him in sub 2 in the closer competition, and Sam has really worked hard building up his own business. Has just gone through a lot of different unique experiences. Even before real estate, we were talking about it this weekend, but his ability to truly grow a business of consistency has made him very successful. He's got employees working for him. And Sam, thanks for coming and hanging out. Why in the hell would you start a real estate company like this?
That's so good. One, thank you for having me out, Jeremy. It's so good to see you, man. So good to see you and Jennifer. I mean, like, I have no idea where she went. She hid because Regina told her to be on camera. No, it's so good to see you guys. Fun fact: he and I actually met in Utah, and thanks to Logan Manzanares. So it's always so cool to be able to see you. Now I've seen you in Utah, I've seen you in Arizona, and now I've seen you in Texas. Just crossing off all the states.
It's been about a year.
Yeah, it's been wow.
A year when we met in June.
That is right. That's amazing. So thank you guys for having me. But start a real estate investment company. That's hilarious. So I got into the industry because the industry that I was in prior, money wasn't really a thing, and time freedom wasn't a thing. And then I realized that if I want to go do all the crazy fun things I want to do in life, that you need to have money and you need to have time freedom. And so what do? Like any other 24-year-old, 25-year-old idiot, I go to Google because that's how I get all my answers. It's a good thing I did.
Chat GPT now. I think.
It's Chat GPT now, yeah. I mean, and actually, I probably went to YouTube University. Honestly, now I think about it. And then what do you find out? Most millionaires are made through real estate, right? We've all heard that. And I was like, great, cool. That sounds like there's money there. I don't know. I'm just gonna trust that YouTube knows what it's saying. And then shortly after that, I found my way into a really special person's community. This really special person, his name is Pace Morby. He's become one of the greatest mentors I've ever had in my life. And I went to him and I was like, hey, should I start like buying property or should I start wholesaling? What should I do? Well, he's like, well, you're new, you don't have money, you have time, and you have basically no other skill set outside of like talking nicely. He's like, you should be a closer and start a wholesale company. I'm like, cool, let's do it. And like that's exactly what we did, and I'm so glad that I did. You know, one thing that I'm looking at for so many people who start an investment company and they fluctuate, they turn it off, they try to become flippers, they try to become buyers, and then their identity completely shifts. What I keep finding is their business success is volatile, and versus the people who are stable through market shifts, through economy shifts, they're the people who always have their hand in an acquisition company to some degree. And so for me, having the investment front, the acquisition front on the front end is so important because it feeds the rest of the ecosystem. And it's something that I'm probably never going to turn off.
All right.
Was that a decent enough answer?
Yes, that's
okay.
The intro, the
Yeah.
origin, yeah.
There you go.
And the other thing that Sam has done, so not only has he established this business in wholesale real estate, and he has a sales director who oversees closer, follow up people, and dispo, but you and a guy named Logan started this podcast called Origin Story, which has been, as you put it, like one of your big factors in growth. So, briefly tell us like why was that one? Like we were all told like go start a podcast. Why is that one that you all created? How has it helped you as much as it has? And what do you feel like has been one of the keys to being consistent in doing that? Where you were talking about so many people start it and it just, bam, it just falls off.
Yeah. That's such a good thing. You guys all know Ryan Pineda, right? Ryan Pineda is kind of a big name in the industry. Ryan Pineda, I had quite a bit of time to hang out with him last month. I was hanging out with him in Pace. And Ryan Pineda has a podcast, phenomenal podcast. And he's had it for about 2.5 years, almost 3 years maybe. And he's been doing it longer than I have. And he actually just made a reel talking about how he thinks the podcast is probably the greatest thing he's ever done for business. The greatest thing. Not the flipping, not the couch flipping, not the education, not the coaching. It's the podcast. And looking back at it, we do 6 figures a month consistently. We've done 6 figures a month consistently for almost a year now. And we're doing really, really well. And then regardless of all the marketing, regardless of any other business, regardless of any other mentorship outside of like sub 2, I think the single greatest thing that I did for business success was starting a podcast. And so Logan, like you mentioned, who's a great friend for both of us, he came to me one day and he and I never knew each other. And I just got this call from this random dude. And he's like, hey, my name's Logan Manzanares. And I knew it was him. I knew the name because at the time he was in our community. And because if you've ever seen Logan, he is shredded.
Dude is built.
Monster,
Oh
monster human being, and absolutely ripped. So he's insane. And I remember at the time I didn't necessarily like him because his entire online presence was him shirtless. I was like, you're a D-bag. And then, but he came to me, and I was like, this guy has to be a D-bag, right? Because like that's only D-bags will do this. Turns out he's one of the most amazing human beings I've ever met in my life. One of the most gracious men. And he comes to me, he's like, hey, I've been talking to a lot of people, and they keep telling me to talk to you. I'm like, cool, about what? And he's like, I don't know. We're gonna find out. And so we have this really awkward call where like we're trying to figure each other out. We're like, cool. At the time, I was wholesaling heavily. He's buying. There's no real way for us to work together. And he's like, you know what? It's okay. I'm gonna find a way for us to work together. And he just hangs up the phone. I'm like, and I just sat there being like confused. Yeah, I just clicked, and then he just left. And then a couple weeks later, he gives me a call again. He's like, I've got an idea. And then the idea wasn't like a great synergistic idea at the time. He's like, okay, you know what? Give me time. And then click. And then just like hangs up on me again. And like
he is done. He is done.
He's done. He doesn't even say bye. He just hangs up. And then eventually he calls me back and he's like, you know what, Sam? I like you. And I'm like, thank you. I like you too. Like, good. And he's like, you have a nice voice. You sound good. And I'm like, you do too. He has a really deep voice. And he's got real, that whole late night DJ kind of voice. And he's like, we're going to start a podcast. And my first answer was, the hell we ain't. Like, that's not happening at all. Like, hell no, we're not. He's like, yeah, we're doing it. And I'm like, nope, you're wrong. You're mistaken, sir. This is it'll happen, but I'm not going to be there. And I've never listened to a podcast in my life. I don't have the attention span for them. To this day, I've never even listened to any of my own. And he's like, you know what? This is going to be a great way for us to spend more time together and for us to just do fun things. And then I'm like, and he just like won me over in a phone call because he's very persuasive. And he closed me completely. And I was supposed to be like the best closer in sub 2 at the time. So I was like, damn, I lost. And I was like, okay, cool. When do we start? He's like, Wednesday. I'm like, wait, what?
What day is this call?
Exactly. This was like the week before. And he was just like, Wednesday. And I'm like, what? He's like, yep, we're going to figure it out. And, it started small. It started really small, and it started really kind of newbie and fresh. We were just figuring out as we go. And then in our fourth call, we basically had someone who was, at the time, I believe, we lucked our way into getting someone who owned over, I think, at the time, like $100 million of real estate. And this person is very much well on their way to becoming a billionaire. And that was our fourth episode. And we didn't even have a name for the podcast at the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I slid into this guy's DMs, and I was like, hey, man, you want to come on our podcast? And he's like, what's the name of your podcast? I'm like, about that. And I had to explain that we had no freaking clue what we're doing. And then I think he ghosted me for a bit, but I just kept being persistent. And then once we got him on, there was a mindset shift with what this was possible for. Like, we, for free, were able to get an uninterrupted hour and a half of free mentorship with someone who, was worth over $100 million. And then the light bulb just clicked. And then we looked at each other, we're like, we're never going to interview anyone who's a friend of ours again. We did break that rule for Mindset Marlon Johnson because he's amazing, but someone who's like just on our level. And we're like, we're only going to use this thing to get in touch and build connections with the people that we really want to. So he and I call it a hit list. We actually have a hit list, which sounds really evil, but we have a hit list of the people that we want to connect with. And I mean, almost every single name in the real estate industry we've crossed. We've had Steve Trang on the podcast. We've had Robert Wensley on the podcast. We've had Eric Klein. We've had some of the greats, Kent Clothier, who at the age of 30 was doing $1.8 billion in a year. And all these guys completely for free. And I have all of their phone numbers, and I chat with all of these guys all the time. They've become friends now. And all of it for free is the wildest thing ever. And now Logan and I are at a point where we've checked off probably every name in real estate that we want to, that we're interested in. And we're like, we can't go any bigger in real estate. So what do? We're now going to other industries. So he and I recently interviewed an Olympic snowboarder. We've interviewed 3 NFL players. We've interviewed MLB stars. We've interviewed TV stars, people who've been in movies. And it's this amazing, amazing thing. And pretty soon we're going to be interviewing someone that you and I have talked about, who's going to do over $100 million this year in their roofing business. And I think it's the greatest hack that there is. And the number one thing is no one is consistent with it. And to point consistency, I have 2 podcasts. I've got Origin Story with Logan, and that's the greatest thing I've ever done. And I have another podcast that I started with my friends. That's just us hanging around. And we just finished this past week episode 50 in a row, where we've gone 50 weeks and we've never missed. Like rain, shine, traveling, speaking. Like we've gone live from Puerto Rico. I've gone live from the side of a highway in California, because like we need to be consistent, right? So in 2 weeks, it'll be the year mark on that one. We've done over a year in Origin Story. And then so a lot of people are like, Sam, you should do podcasts, are oversaturated. And I'm like, no, podcasts are saturated in the beginning. Everyone can start one. I think the universal stat is that 99% of people don't make it to episode 5.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's the barrier to entry. So if you want to get into the big names, and the one thing that I've really realized with all these massive, people who are worth billions of dollars, the number one thing they care about is like, are you on episode 5 or are you on episode 105? The guy who's 105, it actually doesn't even matter how big his following is. They've shown through consistency that they're worth being a part of and being connected to. So I look at guys like Pace Morby, like look at him and what he's doing in life right now. He's rubbing shoulders with Tony Robbins. It's going to be one of the, in my opinion, Pace Morby is going to go down as the greatest real estate investor of all time. When it's all said and done, I think he's going to be the undeniable GOAT. Think about how much his time is worth. Is he going to waste his time on someone who just is on their second episode? No. There's nothing wrong with someone who's on their second episode, but he wants you to get to 100, because if you can be consistent in that, you can be consistent in business, you can be consistent as an entrepreneur, and then most importantly, you can be consistent as a collaborator or as a business partner to Pace Morby. So yeah, it's one of the best things ever.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass it over.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, when I was like getting into real estate and stuff, of course I was already talking to Logan, and that's where I found the Origin Story with you. And I was kind of on the fence, I had been following Pace, seeing, listening to Sunday service and stuff, and I was kind of like on the fence a little bit, like, is this guy really who he says he is? And you guys did the interview with Laura, and I remember that one, listening to it at the time. That's when I was over the road driving the truck, listening to it in my truck because I was waiting for my load, and that right there is what pushed me over to get into sub 2 was the Origin Story when you guys spoke to Laura.
That's so funny. Yeah. So that episode with Laura Morby, you guys know Laura Morby, right? Pace Morby's wife, amazing human being, phenomenal wife and mother, and businesswoman, amazing at what she does. Laura Morby is one of my all-time favorite episodes. We went 2 hours. I got a reputation after that. Logan kept saying that you watched it. She probably broke down crying a few times, a few times, at least a few times. And I got a habit. I remember after that episode, a few women that we went to who had seen the episode, they were like, "We're not going on your podcast. You make women cry." That episode, funny enough, you were now the 4th person to tell me you joined sub 2 because of that episode. So. And that's another beautiful thing, right? Why does Ryan Pineda say that it's one of the best things he's done? Short form content and clips, like people think that reels and shorts are like the key to success. No, it's the key to just getting your face out there. But people will fall in love with you and they will marry you because they see you uninterrupted for an hour. And that's where you can't maintain a facade an hour a day, an hour on a Zoom every week for a year plus. It is very difficult to do that. You get to see the genuine quality of a human being in that. And so with her, in that effect, did you convert for Pace Morby? No, you converted for Laura. You saw the genuine side of the mother and the wife, and like, this is her. He is a reflection of this. Yeah, dude, that was a phenomenal episode. But yeah, so for anyone who doesn't have a podcast, one, I'm like, people are always like worried about like, oh, I don't got 30 grand for a mentorship. And guys, I spend over $100,000 a year in mentorship and masterminding. I spend a lot. And I look at people like, oh, I don't have the money for that. Great. You don't need it. Go start a podcast. Use StreamYard. It's like $10 or $15 or something. It's cheap. And that is it. That's all you need. Get a crappy. We interviewed a billionaire, and my lighting for my podcast at the time was my old crappy phone that was in the drawer. You know, when you guys upgrade your phone, you guys never throw away your old phones, right? So we all have a drawer in the house that has a bunch of old phones in it. I went there, charged one of those up, and turned on the flashlight, put it on a tripod. That was my lighting. And I interviewed a billionaire, and they did not give a damn. So yeah, phenomenal.
So one of the other topics that we have hit on it in our podcast maybe once before, but like you and I talked about this also. Haha, I got to spend time with Sam this weekend. Is one of your first bits of advice for newbies was finding your avatar. And there's a lot of people, you and I talked about it, where they'll choose avatars because they're shying away from a different one that they should be doing, going towards an easy one. One of the ones we talked about, we asked Aldridge about this a few episodes ago, was how do you monetize being a connector? And you brought some insight to me on how to actually leverage that one, because you really can't be a newbie and do that one and monetize it effectively. So when you're talking with somebody who's getting started or getting the ball rolling, how do you effectively choose an avatar that will actually serve you versus a time suck?
So I love this question, and I'm going to break hearts. I think that right now the most commonplace avatar chosen by everyone new has to be connector, and it's not because they're good at connecting. Most of these people don't even have friends. You're not good at connecting. The reality is people choose it because it's the easiest one to choose. You're telling me I don't have to do any of the work. You're telling me I don't have to get the deal. You're telling me I don't have to talk to a single seller, and I don't have to bring any of the money. All I have to do is connect two people's phone numbers, and I'm going to make money. Sounds like too good to be true. Well, the reality is, in the beginning, it kind of is, and the reason why is, and I'm very much an advocate, a stern advocate of understanding what value you truly bring to the marketplace. If you're a newbie, the chances are you are hanging around with other newbies who have deals, and then newbies who have money. The reality is, you connecting those two dots, you can do it, and you can try to take 2, 3, 4, 5 grand for doing that as a connector fee. Well, guess what? All the newbie with a deal has to do is make one post on Facebook. And then guess what? Facebook is the connector, and Facebook is not going to take 5 grand from the deal. This is why I see connecting as a newbie model a very ineffective way to do things. It is very difficult, and I think that connecting is actually one of the highest tier skill sets there are. But you have to have leverage. And what do I mean by that? How do you monetize connecting in a heavy way? When you monetize, or when you try to connect someone who basically is on their first deal, second deal, third deal, fourth deal, whatever, they're newer, right? And they need money for it. And you bring someone to the table who has money. Great. You can get a few bucks for that. But turning that into a legitimate business to give you some level of freedom, some level of being able to escape your job and get full-time in real estate, I haven't seen a single person do it properly. And all the guys who pretend to do it, they all eventually come to me and talk about how they're not making money. How do you monetize connecting? You monetize it by having high leverage. So if you connect someone worth 20 million who has a product, a service, a community, something, to someone else who is worth 20, 50, 100 million, who has another product, service, and there's synergy between the two, you connect those dots, they will make things happen. They actually need each other. And the thing about those people is they don't have the time to sit on Facebook and post about their problems. And so I feel like the higher level the higher you go in levels, what we find out is the game of connecting is not done through social media. The game of connecting is done through personal connections. And it's like, so very often I look at Pace Morby, and he says, Ryan Pineda, whenever Pace Morby needs something, guys like Ryan Pineda, guys like Dan Fleischman, like Pace doesn't go and post on Instagram that, hey, like I need this, I need this, I need this. No, he just goes to the one person that he knows is a good connector, and he trusts that they have a high level connection. So for me, I use the podcast to actually understand what people are doing, where they're at. We plug the holes in their businesses by connecting them with other guests that we've had on that they don't have relationships with. So for in the beginning, for newer folks who are trying to determine their avatar, I want them to go and, like, don't get me wrong, connecting is a skill set, but it is not nearly as hard a skill set as being a closer, as being an underwriter, as being a TC who brings legitimate implementable market value to a specific transaction. You can make a business out of that. I know, because my avatar in the beginning was closer, and I did that, and I got on 8 different teams. So I had no money, but I had all the time, and I had a skill set of being a closer, and I wanted to put in the hard yards. So what did I do? Got on 8 teams at once, closed deals 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, locked in my room, listening to a Google Voice dial tone. And then in my 4th month, it's what led me to doing $120,000 in 30 days. and it's by perfecting a skill set that was actually demanded by the marketplace. So yeah, I tend to piss off a few connectors when I say that, but they all realize I'm right.
No. Okay. All right. So, guys, if you're in our studio audience, if you got questions for Sam, come hang out with us. That's the question chair over there. So just drop on in when you're ready. Otherwise, we're going to keep talking, I guess.
I do have one question.
Okay, cool.
So I do have one question. Something, and this is something that Jennifer's done really well in her business, and I would like to hear your opinion about it. How big is culture in building a business?
So are we talking about the bookkeeping business? Okay. So Jennifer, by the way, you and we spoke about your business a year ago when we first met, and it was still very much in its early stages. And to see the growth that you've had in it is beautiful. It is amazing. I'm so beyond happy for you. So congratulations. It's so well deserved. But culture, oh my God. Guys, you guys literally, when it comes down to hiring people and building a team and automating, and you guys want to make $1 million in your sleep, it all comes down to culture. Culture is like by far, and I thought that was like mumbo jumbo. I thought it was like a bunch of hoorah BS. Like I truly did. I didn't buy into it. I thought it was like a gimmick. Like no, you just hire people, tell them what you need to do. If they don't do it, you fire them. No, culture is how you build a team of all stars, and culture starts in leadership. That is another hard lesson that I had to learn. Is that in the beginning I tried to hire people and then just like give them what I thought they needed and then run the hell away because I'm like, cool, I'm a business owner, right? No, it's not how it is at all. We all want A players, right? We all want people on our team who absolutely crush it in everything they do. But in order for them to self develop, we want people who are critical thinkers. We want people who are developing themselves as human beings. They can't do that unless the culture promotes them in doing that. And I'm actually going to read this. This is so good. I received this text from a really good friend of mine he sent this memo out to his team for the new quarter. And I'm going to be quick with it. He sent this out to everyone. He sent this out to his leadership team. As we go into this new season, I just want to let you guys know that we can create a culture of top performers or we can create a culture of low performers, but we cannot create both. It is up to us to create that culture. We want to make sure that we are creating a culture that empowers top performers and make it a place that they love coming to work. Accountability will win, but it starts with us. And this guy has a CEO. He's a business owner. He has a CEO. He's got directors running everything. Culture is the most important thing. It is intoxicating. It is something that people become infatuated with. This is how you turn people into absolute phenoms for you. Don't believe me? When I started realizing this, I started studying who had the most powerful culture worldwide. If you guys haven't realized, you guys know that every military academy almost worldwide is structured the exact same way. It's almost the exact same way. Every military academy globally is proven to have they're all structured the same way. Same thing with law enforcement. They have some variation depending on, the country, but they all have the same kind of boot camp effect. And the reason why is they make people suffer together. And when you make a team go through the trenches together, what you do is you create loyalty that is unbreakable. Now, I'm not saying to make your closers suffer.
Oh.
No. Jeff's like, damn. Yeah. Prioritize culture more than anything. Prioritize it over revenue. Prioritize it over KPIs. Like, have KPIs for culture. How many times did you check in? Like, fun fact, on my team right now, we have a KPI about did you check in with your teammates to make sure their family life is okay today? Like, take care of one another. So it's a huge thing. It's the most important thing.
All right. We have a question.
Yes. Hi, thank you. My name is Veronica, and I am new in this space. I've been with the Power Hour since the beginning of February, but consistent since May. A couple of things I've heard you say that struck my attention. You said 8 teams you were on? Okay. How does that look? First question. The second question, an avatar. So forgive me for my ignorance. I'm not familiar with avatar other than uh, those little people that you create look like you. And my third question was connecting people, not via Facebook, but real people together.
So good to meet you, and congrats on being so. Uh, Thank you. Congrats on being consistent and coming out to these things. So one, what does it look like to be on 8 teams? One, I very much suggest for newbies not to do that. I did it because no one showed me how to properly get on a team. So I was like, oh, I just need leads. So I'm going to go and work for 8 different people. I fortunately did it in a very transparent, ethical way where I told them that, hey, I'm going to work for you guys. I want to work for some other people. And fortunately, every team that I was on, they understood that and they had no problem with it. So I don't recommend people go and try to do that. I actually, looking back at it, would probably have only gone and worked for like one of those teams. I would have wanted to work because when I did 8, we had a team that was doing a deal every quarter, and then the top performing team that I was on was doing between 20 to 30 deals a month. And so the good thing about that is it allowed me in a very short amount of time to see, like, I basically got a PhD in wholesaling in 3 months, honestly. And it's because I got to see what works, what doesn't work, what systems to use, what culture worked. I saw a massive disparity in culture from the top team that was crushing everybody else. Now going back and looking at it, I wish I would have done a little bit more due diligence and found that top performing team in the beginning and just went full send with them. So there's nothing wrong with working for multiple teams. You just have to do it in a very transparent way, so there's no conflict of interest. But what did that look like? It looked like me spending all of my day sitting in a room just focusing on closing sellers. So I'd hop between CRMs, I would hop between programs, and they would just fill my plate with sellers to call. And that's all I did. I got to effectively live in my skill set. I didn't have to worry about the CRM. I didn't have to worry about inputting leads. I didn't have to worry about generating data or any of these things. All I had to focus on was one thing, and that's calling sellers and having a very high level conversation with them. And so I could get a PhD in closing in 3 months, right? So I hope that gives you some insight on that. Okay. And then second question about avatar. Okay. Your avatar, I love that, the little people. Yeah, it's either them or it's the big blue people in the movie. So your avatar is effectively there's a profile to you. You take your skills, your resources, your limitations, your natural tendencies, the things that you like doing, right? And there are tasks in the industry that are cohesive to that entire profile of you. And these tasks and these profiles, they can be classified as avatars. So if you are like me at the time, I was young, just graduated grad school, I had no money all the time, and I was really good at talking to people. I would be a phenomenal salesperson. And in the world of real estate acquisitions, that's going to be an acquisitions rep, a lead manager, it's going to be a closer, going to be something to that effect, right? Versus, let's switch the avatar a little bit. Let's just say your background is you've been an accountant for 20 years. You've been an accountant for 20 years, and that's all you've done, and you love it. You hate talking to people because people are the worst, and you only want to live in spreadsheets. You would probably be the world's greatest underwriter. And that is how you would plug in with a team. Now, there's a bunch of other ones. There's people who've done largely administrative, secretarial type work, right? Doing a lot of B2B, business to business communication. These people make for phenomenal transaction coordinators, TCs. And so it's really important to know what it is that you're good at, what it is that you vehemently hate doing, creating a profile around it and finding what avatar mirrors that. And there's like 20 plus. There's a ton. And people are finding more all the time, right? If you are a neurosurgeon and you love your job and you have $500,000 sitting in your savings account, you should not be wholesaling. You're either going to be a buyer or a lender. That is your avatar. So what every newbie needs to do is takes quite a bit of time and do very thoughtful introspection, find out, what they bring to the table and what they don't, equally important, and then find which avatar is synergistic with that. And once you understand that, you will have clarity in what it is to do. Because the problem is people who don't know their avatar, they will go and see who's making the headlines. Oh, Sam just did another 6-figure month in wholesaling. I should go be a wholesaler because Sam is. But you're not me. We're totally different people. And they bounce around. They have shiny object syndrome. This is one of the greatest killers in our industry, is people just keep bouncing around too much. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe there is a value in trying multiple things to see what works for you and what doesn't. Because at the end of the day, you gotta try something to know that you don't like it. But the sooner you can get to your true clarity is the sooner that you start building true momentum. Does that help a little bit on the avatar side? Beautiful. What was your third one?
Oh, connect.
Okay, so be more specific.
So I, I I've heard money.
Right.
You can get paid for connecting people
Right.
together. Just two numbers or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You were
Yeah.
Being a connector without having to go through Facebook.
yes.
Yeah. So absolutely. So right now, being a connector is a game of relationships, right? Here's why people do connecting wrong. They do connecting wrong because they will basically go to Facebook or Instagram or whatever their social media of choice is, and they'll be in the community group that everyone is already in, and they will say, "Hey, I've got a deal. It's 123 Main Street, and I need 50K for it." And then the reality is it's not their deal, it's someone else's deal, right? It's somebody else's deal and they're posting it on their behalf effectively, and then they just need 50K for the money. Someone comments, says, hey, I've got 50K, cool, and then they try to connect the money to the deal and they try to take a fee in between. What work meaningfully did you put into it? What value did you put into that transaction meaningfully? A Facebook post? It's not much. The guy with the deal could have gone and done that himself, right, and saved himself 5 grand. The reality with connecting is it's a game of having the relationships offline. So it is about when you come to these things. I look at someone who I just recently connected with, Aldridge, who just seems to know everybody in Houston. Aldridge would be a phenomenal connector, and I'm sure he is a massive connector because he knows everybody and has legitimate relationships with everybody at a very high level. So when he has someone who comes to town and they've got a big development play, like I don't know what Facebook group to go to for that, but I bet Aldridge has that person's phone number. He has their connection. He's probably done an event or two with them, and he can meaningfully create a connection together. So that there's an element of doing connecting right. I think connecting is an art, and I think that you have to prioritize relationships over everything else first. But yeah, connecting is a great way to make money. Like we do it all the time. I make a ton of money just connecting dots. So a lot of one of the most popular form of connecting right now is called gator lending. So when you basically use your money or someone else's money, you can do this thing called gator wrestling, and you can bring it to fund someone else's EMD or their transactional funding. We do a ton of it, and I mean, last month we made $20,000 in net profit just doing EMD gator lending. So there's a lot of money to be made, but the way that we did it, we had to be very aware. It's like, hey, we're not going to go do this on Facebook. We're not going to be very surface level with it. We have to be very entrenched in our relationships. I hope that helps.
Did you have any other questions, Veronica? All right, awesome. Anybody else have questions? Jamie, good man. Jamie always has good questions.
Thank you. Appreciate the compliment, Jeff. And um, Sam, I went to your thing on Thursday, and I haven't known you very long. I don't know you very much, but I love hearing you talk. You're awesome. So you mentioned culture, and my question is about culture because recently I've been doing a lot of thinking about like myself, how I treat myself, and how I treat other people, and that's kind of what I think culture kind of boils down to. So my question to you would be, um, what do you think are probably things that people need to work on more to improve their culture with other people, and something that people need to do less? Like you mentioned that you're on 8 different teams and you kind of saw the differences. So could you kind of break that down?
Okay, I love this. So one, talking about things that you can do better and things that you can do more of, and this is where culture starts to me. Culture starts with self, right? You cannot, it will be the most asinine thing to start trying to build culture for a team if you have a shitty culture with yourself as a person. And so I'm going to give you 2 quotes that really shifted my worldview on culture. And it's about culture with self. So number one is from, in my opinion, the greatest speaker on earth, the greatest motivational speaker on earth, Ed Milet. You guys know Ed Milet? Fantastic human being, amazing human being.
Instagram if you don't.
Oh yeah, tell him Sam sent you. Yeah, yeah. Like that'll do anything. So Ed Milet, who is, in my opinion, honestly, the greatest motivational speaker on earth, one of the greatest storytellers I've ever seen. And he has this amazing saying, and that culture starts with confidence, actually. And it starts with self, right? You cannot build culture for others unless you are confident in self. And where do you get self confidence? And this is the most critical accountability thing. And he says, self confidence comes from keeping the promises you make to yourself. So you want to build culture with your people, but there's an issue with the meeting starting at 9 and you show up at 9:05, right? And like, let's actually backtrack before that. Before you're even ready to have meetings with other people, do you keep the promises you make to yourself? If you say you're going to go to the gym tomorrow and you don't, and you say, hey, I'm going to go tomorrow instead, and then the next day it's tomorrow instead, you're lying to yourself. And if your word doesn't mean shit to yourself, what does it mean to anyone else? And why would anyone else believe you? That's where self-confidence comes from. We look at people who have tremendous amounts of insecurity, and the one thing that we quickly see is their confidence is gone because they're constantly lying to themselves or constantly hiding from hard truths. And that's why we look at guys like Ed Milet, we look at phenoms like Jocko Willink with extreme ownership. A lot of their stuff is holding yourself accountable to things that you say you're going to do. Once you start doing that, hey, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. Great. Wake up at 5 a.m. Not 5:01, not 5:02, not 5:03. Wake up at 5 a.m. like you said you would. Do that 10 times in a row. Trust me, you will start believing yourself more. So that's number one, is from Ed Milet. Start with building confidence, and you do that by not lying to yourself. Number two is from one of my all-time favorite role models. His name is Alex Hormozy. And Alex Hormozy has one of the greatest things I've probably ever heard in my life. And this is, anyone really big on affirmations in the morning? Okay, y'all are gonna hate me. Okay, so it's okay. Yeah, it was a loaded question. Gotcha. So, and this is in different strokes for different folks, right? One of my best friends, his name is Mindset Marlin. He's huge on affirmations. Like, he just yells them all the time. And it works for him. But Alex Hormozy has a saying: you don't gain self-confidence from shouting affirmations in the mirror. You gain it from having an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are. Outwork your self-doubt. Do those two things. Keep the damn promises you make to yourself before you ever make promises to anybody else, right? If you can't keep them to yourself, you're not ready to make them to someone else. And then outwork your damn self-doubt. Have an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are. You do those two things, work on yourself for 3, 4, 6 months. Then you're ready to build a team. Then you're ready to start leading. Because then when you make a promise to them, you know you'll keep it and they'll believe you. And the one thing that you can't have as a leader is you cannot have your people not believe you. One of the things that I strive for truly in my business is anytime I tell anything to any of my people, especially my leaders, like my directors, if they don't feel conviction in what I say, I have lost their faith. And if I've lost their faith, I'm useless as a leader. And then what that means is culture breaks down. We look at the military, look at the Marines. It's safe to say the Marines have some of the greatest culture on earth. It's phenomenal. They go to, think about what they do. It's one of the greatest things out there. It's one of the greatest feats of social engineering you will ever see. I know the Army Academy, basic academy, is about 3.5 months. I think the Marines are about the same, might be a little bit longer. Actually, I think they're probably a little bit longer. And what they do is they typically will get an 18-year-old kid out of high school who has had no level of discipline in his life, and then has no level of accountability in his life, and he's a kid. And then in about 3.5 to 6 months, they have him ready to go to war and lay down his life. That is an astronomical change in someone's psychology. Think about that. You guys ever met someone in 3 to 6 months, they've endured a mindset shift that large? Have you ever seen it outside of the military? Hell no. You ever seen it outside of law enforcement? Hell no. But they have it down to a science. And the reason why is because when they get there, their RTOs, or regional training officers, or their drill sergeants, right? These men walk with this beautiful thing called command presence. And it doesn't mean that they have to scream at you to get your attention. Have you guys ever seen, like, anyone ever been around like a real high tier sergeant or major? They have this aura to them. They don't have to speak. They command presence. And it's beautiful to see. And when you have that, you have conviction. And when you have that conviction with your people, they will follow you to the ends of the earth completely. So that was a bit of a tangent. But does that help at all? It makes all the sense in my head. Okay. Any?
We got time for one more question.
One more question.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Here you go.
Nobody else has a question?
Nothing. All right. Jeremy, what you got?
You go ahead. You got a question, I'm sure, right?
I could come up with one. All right. So, yeah, again, Sam, just really appreciate you being here, hanging out this weekend. Again, like I said, I was just, incredible how much success you've had, and I've just been genuinely cheering for you every step of the way. Like, just super proud of everything that you've done. What are some other lessons, or what are some other aspects about your current wholesale business that you'd be comfortable sharing? Like, what exactly does it look like? Because people are like, man, Sam's doing this wholesale bit. Well, what the hell does it actually look like that you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, we could be here for 8 hours. So one, yeah, we got a minute. We got a minute. Okay. Just so you guys know, if anyone that's not, you guys need to be following me on social media, not for likes and follows, but actually because I do these things called master classes where we will go live for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, and I will literally just give everything away. And that's a big thing. The wholesale operation at its core, it looks like first and foremost, we're indexing culture. Culture precedes all. We have a saying, and it's that we adopted it from actually a federal law enforcement agency in their academy, and it's that mission first, then team, then me, and everything has to work that way. So culture comes first. Every time someone does something, we have to ask them, they messed up. Did you put mission first? Did you put the team first? Or did you put me first? If they put me, they have to own up to it. We have to handle what needs to be handled. As far as our marketing goes, we do a lot, man. I am not an advocate of only doing one thing. You only do cold call, you only do texting, you only do PPC, you only do one type of data. I believe in testing everything because we have to be dynamic and fluid with the marketplace. So we are constantly testing different marketing channels. We are constantly pivoting. We're constantly making data-driven decisions. And my thing is this: we do the highest and best of everything we can. So what do I mean by that? With outbound, right? Outbound, when you go cold calling and texting, you need data. There are 3 different tiers of data. There's courthouse data, then there's predictive data, then there's bulk data. We only do courthouse. Why? Because it is the absolute best. So because the Marines are back at it. So
Courthouse data.
Yep.
Bulk data. Courthouse data.
Yeah, there you go.
If you are not on board with that, that should
Yeah.
be the asterisk.
There you go. So fun fact, guys, we don't target 10, 15, 20,000 record lists. We target 1,000 records per month on average. And it's given us a 6-figure return on courthouse data because courthouse data is the best data. It's highest and best. For inbound, right, where the leads come to you, people do these things like Facebook. They do Facebook ads. Fun fact, guys, anyone here doing Facebook ads in wholesale? Good, don't. It sucks. So
We're already ahead of the game.
there you go. So with inbound, yeah, there we go. See that I'm a one-trick pony. So in inbound, the only 2 things that are worth doing are Google Ads, PPC, and PPL. These are the highest and best of both.
Not even direct mail.
We tried direct mail. We did it. We stabilized it. What we found is the cash conversion cycle takes too long for the money that it's worth. And when you run a Google Ads campaign next to a direct mail campaign, the ROI on the Google Ads campaign will be so much higher that it will not make a smart business decision for you not to turn off the direct mail, take that money, pour it into what's giving you your highest ROI. That's an element of being dynamic and fluid, right? And eventually, it's not that we forever turn off direct mail. 6 months from now, we'll come back to it and see how it performs. And then we constantly have to keep turning things on, turning them off, tweaking them. This is how you stay ahead of the marketplace, and this is how you stay ahead of your competition. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. I had no idea where you wanted me to go with that one.
How many markets are you in? Metros? How many
Yeah.
per month?
Yeah. So yeah, right now, oh my God, I checked the other day. We just closed one. So we just closed one last night. So I'll take one off. I right now have 21 live escrows. So we're in 21 live escrows right now. We're stabilizing anywhere between 20 to 30 deals a month. And I'm hell bent on not doing more per month. It's actually not. You guys, I know we're already well over a minute. Can I give you guys some like super high level game that and say F off to the timeline?
You guys are on board with
Okay.
this, right?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So at a point, it is not about doing 50 deals a month, right? We all want to get to 50 deals a month, but we realize that there's actually way more ways to make money. And it is not about doing more deals per month. It's about making more per deal. Now, if I ask you guys, if you have a $20,000 assignment fee on a deal, how can you double your revenue on that deal? How can you make more? How do you turn a 20K profit into a 50K profit? I'm sure you know the answer, but what do you think it is? Boom. Well, you cheated, so you knew. Okay. So the answer is this. A lot of people, we think about like wholesale. We think about like other exit strategies. No, no, no. Keep the assignment the same way. So I'm going to tell you guys about a deal that we're closing Monday. Okay. It is a creative finance deal that we are wholesaling. We're making $26,000 on the assignment. Okay. 26K on the assignment, but on that assignment, that's not pure profit for me. I've got marketing expenses, I've got people to pay. And as a business owner, I want to take care of what comes to my net profit, right? So what do? I gator lend. So we're making 26K on the assignment fee. That's tier one. Tier two, I am gator lending to my own company. Sam Singh, the private individual, is gator lending to his own company. And that's pure profit back to me, making a few extra thousand there. To my buyer, who's a trusted buyer, we've done tons of deals with him. I am gator lending on his non-refundable EMD, and I'm making a $2,000 profit there. Now that buyer, he's going to come onto a creative deal. His total cost to close his total entry fee is going to be about like $45,000. I'm going to lend him the $45,000, and in doing so, by lending his entry fee, I'm going to be a 50-50 partner on the back end, and he's going to wrap this deal. So he's going to wrap the deal. He's going to make probably 15K upfront from his wrap buyer. I'm going to get 7.5 of that. And then I'm going to get he's going to make $500 a month cash flow for the next 8 to 10 years. So I'm going to make $250 a month in cash flow for the next 8 to 10 years. And do you guys notice how I didn't do more work? We talk about we want to do more deals. More deals equals more lead gen, equals more costs, equals more people, equals more logistics. It is not about doing more deals. It's about making more money. So the question is, how do we go from only making money on a wholesale fee to how do we do the wholesale? How do we do both gators? How do we be the lender on the deal? And then we talk about, just so you guys know, in a high level business sense, this is called vertical integration. And these are owning the verticals. So a phenomenal person I look up to amazingly, his name is Kent Clothier. He at a time was doing $2 billion a year. I think right now he's doing over $20 million a month in real estate acquisitions. And they are completely vertically integrated. What does that mean? They're the wholesale company. Okay. He's the data provider. He owns a data company or a software that they pull the leads. Then he goes and markets to that. So he's paying his own data company to then market to it. Then he goes and locks up the wholesale. Guess what? The title company they opened up escrow, he owns a title company. Guess what? If it's a listing lead, he owns the brokerage. The flipper that he's going to sell the deal to, he says, hey, you need a hard money loan. If you work with our partner lender, they'll give you a better rate than any other commercial hard money lender out there. So then they're lending on the deal. And then when the guy finishes the fix and flip, what is he going to do? You're going to list it with your brokerage again. Now he does that. Now he does this other thing called turnkeys, where he'll go find the buyers like hedge funds, like these big buyers who want a turnkey property. He says, hey, you're gonna give me $500,000 if I give you this 3-bedroom, 2-bath that's in this area, right? And it's turnkey. Great. What does he do? Goes and finds a piece of shit property, buys it for 150, puts 100,000 into it, completely renovates it, has the title company, has the lending, does the hard money to himself, and then sells it to the hedge fund when it's all done. This is how you make all this money without having to scale all the other BS involved with it. That's the next big thing for us. It's not how do we go from 20 deals, 30 deals a month to 50 deals a month. It's no, I would rather be at 10 deals and have less people because it's more efficient, it's more effective, and then still make double the revenue. So was that valuable for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. I hope it was.
That was awesome.
Yeah, here you go.
Guys, Sam Singh, everybody. Everybody give a shout out for being here. That's it for this episode of the Power Hour Podcast. Thanks again to Pat and Title for hosting us this week. We will see you all next Saturday. Peace.